Here, how can you make your website your number one business growth tool? So to achieve that goal, what is your recipe?
It's such a difficult thing to answer because it isn't any one thing. I think that it's continually changing. And, I think you have levels. Like ultimately, your website needs to be, it's a marketing tool and needs to fit in the chain of marketing. So I have seen throughout my career, every single time I doubled down on personality, I had very explosive growth. And that got me a lot of attention. And then when I wanted to do something like a course, people knew me because of my personality, and then they all bought the course.
So all these businesses, lifestyle businesses who are, doing okay, wants to go into another level, improve their businesses or improve their marketing spend on websites. What is your, best advice to those people, how they should approach marketing?
So I think that my best advice is stop and look at what you're doing and try to figure out where is the gap. Have you ever seen smart people talk, when they write posts on social media platforms or they write essays and things like that? They could be so smart. And when you talk to them, it's like, wow, this person's so intelligent. But as soon as they start creating content for the masses or for public, it's like they switch flips and they start talking like a robot. Gap.
So for service businesses, what is your favorite ways, 1 to 3 ways, which worked for you very good in the past to bring traffic to those service peoples? Welcome to the Website Growth Show, brought to you by WP Minds. I'm your host, Rana Shahbaz. On this show, we speak with business owners, agency leaders, and marketers to learn what's working to improve their websites and grow their businesses. Most businesses spend money on a website, run ads, do SEO, and still wonder why it's not driving real growth. The site looks professional, but it doesn't stand out, doesn't connect, and doesn't convert. Today's guest, Nick Gulick, believes that's because most websites are missing one thing: personality. Nick isn't just a web designer. With a background in business consulting, sales, and growing real service businesses, he has seen firsthand that websites don't fail because of tech. They fail because they sound like everyone else. Nick helps service businesses stop blending in, break out of commodity thinking, and turn their website into a real growth tool by leading with clarity, contrarian thinking, and human messaging. In this episode, we are unpacking why personality beats polish, how clarity drives conversion, and what actually makes a website work in today's AI-driven world. Nick, welcome to the Website Growth Show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to, learn from you. How can you make your website your number one business growth tool? And I know you have your, unique take on that one. So I'm excited to learn.
I'm excited to chat about it and talk about it.
Excellent. Before we go into the, tactics and tricks, can we start? What is exciting you to keep building website for that long?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. Honestly, money, getting paid money is always nice. Have to do something to earn a living. Websites are something I seem to be good at. What I like about websites is it needs a lot for it to do a good job. You need more than just knowledge of how to build a website. There's design knowledge, there's copywriting knowledge, there's marketing knowledge. My background before getting into web design was business consulting. And before that, I was a BDM and I was a sales manager and I was growing a business in a different field. I was growing an accounting firm. So all of that experience helps with what I'm doing now. And then it's just continual growth, continual learning, continual education. Like you don't make a mistake learning something new because that knowledge can be applied, and design is broad and you can grow so much in design knowledge. You can grow so much in copywriting and you can grow so much in marketing, and it's always changing and businesses are evolving and the market is evolving. And so you have to keep improving. And I like that. That suits my personality. I like to learn and grow.
Fantastic. And I like your honesty that the money is the main driver. I think we all work. That's money is the, a big part of that, but doing what you love and earning money is the best part. So
I should clarify, like I'm not money driven. The reason why I keep doing anything is because, well, I need to do something. So, I get paid doing this. I get paid well doing this. So that's what I'm doing. If I wasn't getting paid, I'd be changing every 6 months, probably trying something new every 6 months. So the money definitely helps keep it going.
Amazing. And we are discussing here, how can you make your website your number one business growth tool? So to achieve that goal, what is your recipe?
It's such a difficult thing to answer because it isn't any one thing. I think that it's continually changing. And, I think you have levels. Like ultimately, your website needs to be, it's a marketing tool and it needs to fit in the chain of marketing. So you have traffic generation. It's typically coming back to your website. Then your website needs to convert that traffic into some sort of inquiry or some sort of next step, progress the conversation. And then making it actually happen is different for everyone, depending on the business type. I think that the way things have been evolving in the market, what we're seeing an influx of, let's call it average content. But the average is improving because people are now using AI to generate content, and you can make very professional seeming content very easily. And I think that's going to spread to design as well. With AI generated design, that's going to keep improving. And so what's going to happen is people who are entry level will be able to jump on into ChatGPT or whatever AI tool they like, and they're going to end up with a professional seeming website that seems very polished. And they will, if you're doing the same thing, you're going to be competing against people who have no experience. And how will you stand out? And why would anyone use you? So we need to figure out how to differentiate and how to stand out and how to grab that attention, because the attention is what's going to allow us to step away from being a commodity, because that's where everything's heading. Everything's getting commoditized. So I think I'm betting on personality being the thing. I have seen throughout my career, every single time I doubled down on personality, I had very explosive growth, had good things happen. Years ago, when I was on Facebook and I was in Facebook groups, I was very, how do we say this, very bombastic. I really called people out. I said when I thought things were stupid. I was very, not aggressive, but I would share my views, and I would be very, not, I can't find the right word for it, like kind of forceful in that, and very blunt. And that got me a lot of attention. And then when I wanted to do something like a course, people knew me because of my personality, and then they all bought the course. And this past, I'd say 6 months or so, maybe more, let's say about 6 or 7 months, I've been really active on LinkedIn, and I've been making jokes and just doing what I consider almost not trolling, but just being a joker, and, joke comments, joke posts. And it has gotten me a lot of attention, and I get messages all the time, and that I get leads from that, which I wasn't expecting because I was just having fun on a social media platform. And I'm seeing that personality gets you attention, and people, ultimately, the people making business decisions and buying decisions are people who are, potentially in their mid 30s, who grew up with memes and grew up with jokes. And so the market is changing, and the stuff that used to work 5 years ago, where it was very professional and there were formulas for how to write your, USP and how to talk about your service in a way that would resonate. And it's like the advice of, make it so a 5-year-old could understand it, and all that sort of stuff is now changing. And it's no longer as effective because everyone's doing it. And when everyone does it, that's common. You become common. And then when you're common, you're a commodity. So I think the key to growth moving forward is going to be breaking out of being a commodity, whether that takes the form of like a funnel, whether that takes the form of, interactive lead magnets. All of that stuff is kind of irrelevant. That's just a specific tactic. The broad strategy is going to be showcasing your personality, I think.
No, this is fascinating, and I love this, differentiation, how you're approaching marketing. As we in the marketing world say, the people buy from people. So, you are a true example for that. And I was reading your recipe on LinkedIn, how you approach websites. Normally, most of people we start from strategy and design, development, promotion, and continuous optimization. But this is exactly you mentioned. You start with a strong personality, which is, I think, can be a game changer. And once you start from there, people connect with you, then everything aligns accordingly as well. So I love it. So, but those people like myself who don't have strong personality, very common people, how can they stand out? How can they market?
Well, everyone has a personality. It doesn't necessarily mean that your personality is strong. I think that you have a viewpoint that maybe not everyone has. And I think it's finding those little things, the stuff that you think, but you're maybe too polite to say, the contrarian takes. It's just finding what is it that I think that's different to what other people think. And I have a lot of that, thankfully, so I can do that. And I have things like, personality traits like I am a bit of a joker, so I can play on the joker card. It's finding what is your personality. And that's a little bit of soul searching, a little bit of thinking. You can't force like a personality that isn't you. And I see that sometimes people are like, I want to be funny and whatever, but they're not. And if that's not who they are, it's never going to work because they're going to be false, or they're going to pay someone to write for them, maybe ghostwriting on LinkedIn, or, write their website copy. And then a client's going to go, this is great, and connect with it. And then when they speak to them, they're not going to get that experience. And then they have the dissonance between, this isn't something that doesn't feel right. This isn't what I expected. And then it's going to fall off. So finding your personality, finding your views. I think the views are a really good take, like the stuff that you think that is maybe the stuff that, there's always something that if I said this, I know people are going to argue with me. And it's having the courage to actually share those views. And that is hard. That is hard because clients, they do it all the time. I want something bold. I want, something attention grabbing. And then when you do it and they see it, and it gets to the point where they actually have to make that their thing, then they get a bit scared and like, oh, actually, there's going to be some people out there who don't like this. And that's the point. You need to repel the people that aren't going to fit with you if you want stronger connection. The stronger connection happens when you're pushing some people away, but the people who like it are going to hold on tight. It's like saying, I like music, or saying I like 80s funk. There's a difference. The 80s funk is very specific. Anyone else who likes 80s funk is going to love that and be like, oh yes, I like that too. If someone doesn't like it and they're like, oh, 80s funk, then they're not going to talk to me. And that's great because the people who do are going to be much stronger in terms of connection to me. And that's how I think it needs to go about. It's finding those specific things about your personality, the specific views that you hold. And there's a lot. I mean, people could realistically go and ask like an AI tool to help me figure out, ask me questions to find my contrarian viewpoints, ask me questions to help me identify my personality. I mean, I'm not going to do that. I'm
Exactly.
kind of on the anti-AI angle, but I know a lot of people use that stuff. And so they could try that way and see if it triggers some sort of thought. I'm all for getting inspiration from all over the place because I think that, thinking of everything by yourself is quite challenging.
This is very interesting. And I totally agree with you that I should not mimic as being a Nick. I should find, we all are unique. I should find my own strength and double down on that personality. That is the key, not finding someone and copying it, because you will not be able to do it over a very long period of time. So this is fascinating. Very good start. That this is what we are looking, not the technical stuff. There's so much information. It's the stuff which makes difference and help you stand out and connect your website with your target audience. So this is brilliant. So once you find out your personality, in your recipe, that's the most important part. How do you implement that personality onto a successful website?
Cool. So this is where it starts getting deeper into strategy. That I should specify that coming up with that personality is part of the strategy process in the way I handle it. I do a strategy session where I interview them and I find out these things as well as the business, the marketing, target audience, all that sort of stuff. And then from there, work out things like their positioning strategy, like how we're going to actually position them online, positioning statement, like how we're going to actually talk about it, and messaging pillars. So typically there'll be, 3 to 5 key things that they believe and they hold true to themselves, like their values and their kind of their main points, I guess, that they believe in their business, that they embody in their business. So for example, I have a client who's a building consultant. His whole thing, one of his messaging pillars is about getting them in early. So if you get them in early, they can make a difference. If you get them in too late, then the difference is going to be minimal because it's already gone through too many parts of the process. So that's just one of the pillars. So that means that when he is creating content and stuff's going on the site, it isn't necessary that he says exactly that, but he needs to make sure that that message is being conveyed. So he'll have some piece of copy and then he'll look at it and go, okay, is this fitting in with my messaging pillars? Is it true to my messaging pillars? So that is essentially the thing. It's coming up with, okay, what is it that I'm trying to say ultimately? If this is my personality, this is my view, how do I say that specifically into words, and then crafting a story. And typically this stuff happens like homepage is like the big thing. Homepage is where you learn the kind of the everything. And so the broad story. And so that homepage needs to tell some sort of story. It has, usually you'll have, I mean, this is the stuff that probably people are covering all the time. They land, I mean, story brand is the perfect example. Like that structure for a homepage works very well. So do that. And I know
Exactly.
you interviewed the guy from StoryBrand
Yeah,
not long
yeah,
ago.
Dr.
Yeah.
Dr. JJ Peterson, and last 3-4 years we used it on Story Brand
Yep.
framework. Really helped,
Yep.
creating a website.
Yeah. So anyone who's listening to this, after this episode, if you didn't listen to that one, listen to that one because that structure is very effective. There's a reason why that book is so popular. But that's essentially how you tell a story on a website. So you figure out, how am I going to tell my story and guide people through this journey of working with me, and making sure that whether someone is first coming to the site, they can go through and get the information they need. If it's a repeat person, what are they looking for, and giving them that access to that, and then keeping the consistency of your message from your website to your marketing to what happens after, because I think that's a big thing where people fall over. They will spend money and effort and energy and time crafting this great bit of, let's say copy for a website or the website or whatever. And then they contradict it by jumping onto Canva and generating social media graphics, and they're not being cohesive and consistent with the brand. And then they'll write posts on LinkedIn that are incorrect. And then they'll, have a client message them and they'll email in a way that isn't true to the brand story that they're telling on the website. So website, that website is an embodiment of your brand online. And you just need to make sure that everything else embodies the brand and it's consistent. Otherwise, you get people falling off because it doesn't make sense. It isn't
Exactly.
what they're expecting.
In your recipe for building a successful website, the second step is clear value proposition. The example you used, that their key messaging is to getting them in earlier. Is that the value proposition?
No, that was just one. That was one messaging pillar. So their value proposition was, these guys specifically was making building projects more profitable. That's their core value proposition. So we had a few ways to go for these guys, and this is probably important. This is how I was talking about. You got to get the right personality. So with these guys, when we went through the process, we had the option of going more daring on personality and being a bit more aggressive and being a bit more contrarian, or going a bit more tame and a bit more restrained. And they went the more restrained path because that fit the personality of the business owner. So their view, or not their view, their approach was all about driving value, improving, being a high value solution. So it was making building projects more profitable. And then from that, it's like what structures, how do we do that? What's our different ways of making that happen? And then that was the, getting us in early, guarantees, and like a couple of other things. I can't even remember all of them right now, but yeah. So that was the how.
So getting building projects more profitably is their North Star. That's the message they want to convey.
Yes.
And that can be like your destination in your, Google Maps. That's the destination you want to go. And you are finding the ways, different ways. Ways could be different to reach that target. But when you're clear about your destination, normally everything aligns. You know where you're going and what messaging you need to use. Brilliant. And the third step on here is solid and human messaging. What do you mean by that? After you found a personality, you found your value proposition. Now, third step is solid and human messaging.
So have you ever seen smart people talk? And when they write posts on social media platforms or they write essays and things like that, they could be so smart. And when you talk to them, it's like, wow, this person's so intelligent. But as soon as they start creating content for the masses or for public, it's like they switch flips and they start talking like a robot, and it isn't natural. So making sure that the language is more human oriented and more natural and is the way you would say things is I think one of the keys in making sure that content resonates. I use this word a lot and it's so overdone now, but it's the word that fits. The content has to resonate. People have to read and go, yes, that's me, or yeah, cool, and enjoy it. And they don't enjoy it when it puts them to sleep. So if you're writing like a robot and if you're writing like it's like an essay from when you were in school, because those things had no personality. The teachers didn't want that. They wanted to see that, you knew what you were talking about. Personality wasn't a thing they were judging on. So nothing we wrote back in school days had personality. Well, at least mine didn't. Mine also didn't show the knowledge either. So,
I think we are all guilty of that. So I think this step again ties into your personality part. So if you have a personality,
yeah.
you won't be writing like essays. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, one of the things that I do is I read out loud what I'm writing when I write content. And when I read it out loud, I'm like, that I would never say that. And if I would never say that, I'm never going to write it. It has to be stuff I'm comfortable saying. Sometimes there's jokes that it's like I wouldn't actually say that because it's a joke, but in terms of copy, it needs to be stuff that I'm comfortable reading and saying out loud. And if I would never say it out loud, it's probably not appropriate. Like, it's not human.
Got it. Excellent. And now we have the personality part set. We got the value proposition. We know how to convey the message, not like a robot, like as we speak. That's how the best way to write content. How does these three things help you design and develop a website which converts?
So the design aspect comes back to, how do I need to structure this page to tell a story? And there's also all these things that factor in. So who's this audience? What sort of like psychographics are there with the audience? Also, to some level, what demographics are there? Like, if the audience is an older audience, my design's going to be different to if it's primarily younger. Understanding who you're designing for is so important. Being able to take things like the brand persona, brand personality, things like, how do we want people to feel? What kind of brand is this? So they shape design decisions. So if someone is going to be traditional, it's going to be a very different design to someone's cutting edge. And knowing which is appropriate will come back to the personality. So you can't do this ultra traditional, old school, type of design when the personality is cutting edge and like edgy and whatever, unless you're doing it as a parody, in which case you can kind of do whatever you want. So understanding the personality and understanding who you're designing for shapes the brand and the brand style. And then you pick find a design direction based off that brand style. The way you lay out the content and the page is based off the messaging and the story you're trying to tell. There's a level of just like, this is the right move, where it's almost not instinctive, but you kind of make a decision like, yes, this will work. And a lot of experimentation. When I design, I'm experimenting a lot. I'm trying so many things. So sometimes clients will be like, hey, what about if we tried this? It's like, I did try that. Believe it or not, I've tried everything. It didn't work. So you trial and error for a lot of stuff. But yes, coming up with design direction is based off brand personality.
Excellent. And I think everything is aligning what we're discussing and getting to the end product. So once you go through all this process, how do you define the success of a website project?
Depends what the goal was. So I had a client who came to me because they were a software distributor. This is like years ago now. They were a software distributor, and they wanted to land the Australian Asia Pacific distribution license from this American software company. So they just wanted a site to make them look right for these guys to land one deal. That was it. They wanted one deal. But it's a big deal. And so designed a site. We just did the same process. Who's the audience? And we knew exactly who it was, which is great because we could get very specific, and designed something that we knew they would like, that made them look right, made them look, kind of a bit bigger than they are, like professional and, high end, and people that were are willing to invest in promotion and marketing, just made them look right. And they landed the deal and they were happy. And then a year later, they shut down that website.
Did they use the website like a proposal for that one deal kind of thing?
No, it was literally, because they were doing meetings, and it was just, when these people are going to go look at this site, they're going to check them out. They need to have a website. The website needs to basically match the story they're telling. So their marketing was, the lead generation was essentially happening not online. This was like conversations and meetings and networking and all that sort of stuff to get them in the door, but then they were going to get looked up after. And when they got looked up, they needed to look the part and match. So that's one type. But then I have another one who it's actually the same people. So it's really funny. Same people, once they landed, not the next deal they landed, but the one after that, a piece of software, it was old looking, terrible, and they got basically exclusive rights to distribute it worldwide. And they wanted that to be big. So we rebranded, did a site, handled SEO, got them did some promotional work, ongoing improvements. And that has worked really well. And the measure for that is them in their business and their business growth. So, sometimes there'll be a specific number that you can identify, like conversion rate. Usually I'm big on money. Are you making more money by doing this? If you are, we are winning. I've had clients where we launch and they wanted to get more inquiries, and we launched, and then their phone started ringing way more, and they were very happy because the more inquiries they wanted, they're now getting. So it just depends on what the objective is. It's not always leads, which is funny. And that's gotten me into arguments with people online before when I tell them not every website is about lead generation. Sometimes the lead generation is happening already, and it's literally just for some sales support. It's just they need to look the part and needs to close deals. But then a lot of times it is about lead generation or direct sales. Sometimes they're selling off the website. So whatever their objective is, as long as that objective is happening or the rate of it is improving, then it's a win.
Amazing. And I'm glad you mentioned and you shared, very distinctive case studies as well. And this is the whole reason of I'm doing this, efforts of this website growth show, because I know there are many stories and most people think maybe getting hundreds of thousands of foot traffic or maybe millions of social media followers is the only way to grow a business. But there are, this is the exact classic example that one business wanted to convert a big deal, and they created a website, and then they have done a great business. So thank you very much for sharing these exact stories here.
Most of my clients are not that big. Like they don't get millions of traffic, or a lot of them don't even have much in the way of social media presence, like minimal, if anything. So for them, they're real, actual small businesses, small to slightly growing, a small team, and it's improving the money they're already spending. They're usually spending something. They're either going out into the world and networking in person, or they're running ads, or they're doing SEO, and they want that to happen better. Or sometimes they're coming with none of that, and they need that stuff as well. But it's helping them practically. You don't have to I don't have any client who is trying to be, some venture capitalist funded startup, making billions of dollars or anything like that. They're normal people who just want to make some money and, live a happy life and get, reasonably wealthy along the way. They're not trying to explode the universe. So, you don't have to be chasing the big influencer types to succeed.
Fascinating. And this is, very, very, very helpful and very useful for many businesses. So with all this experience, all these businesses, lifestyle businesses who are, doing okay, wants to go into another level, improve their businesses or improve their marketing spend on websites. What is your, best advice to those people, how they should approach marketing?
The best advice because it's so many different scenarios that they could be in. So I think that my best advice is stop and look at what you're doing and try to figure out where is the gap? Where am I falling over? Where is this not working? Because you have a goal. So you figure out what your goal is, figure out where you are now, and go, okay, cool. What's missing? For me to hit my goal, what do I need in place? Do I need more leads? Is that what it is? If you need more leads, then it's okay, well, that could be that your website is not converting. It could be that you're not getting traffic to your website. It could be that, whatever other lead gen, you might be doing social selling, maybe that isn't effective enough. So finding where the gaps are and what needs to be improved is a good step. And then obviously improving it, or you talk to someone, but not someone who's selling something specific. I guess this is like a warning to people. When someone does, for example, someone does SEO or someone does paid ads or someone builds websites, typically when you go to them and say, hey, I want this, their solution's going to be whatever it is that they do. Because when all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. So talk to maybe someone who's a bit more of a marketing strategist or something like that. Someone who is going to look at it broadly and go, okay, cool. Here is your full situation and come up with a strategy for you. If you're going to anyone for like third-party advice, that's typically what I would recommend. Like that's my approach as well. Like I say no to so many people because it's like they don't need my service. They need marketing, or they have bigger problems. So or their website needs a minor tweak and then they're fine. It's find where your gap is and work on fixing the gap, plugging that gap, or speak to someone who's going to come up with like actually analyze it for you and tell you what the gap is that has no bias to their specific solution being the plug.
This is such an important advice. I think you, as you said, you can go to the experts who are experts in a specific thing. They can do their job. They might be good at their job, but because everything is not aligning with your value proposition, with your story, with everything, generally it's difficult to convert one specific thing. And that's why having a holistic advice from an expert like yourself who knows how to create a story, develop it, and promote it. So it's very important. So I agree. Nick, for the, I think you are doing. Is there any niche you specialize on, or do you build websites for different businesses?
I pretty much focus on service businesses, so people providing services. I don't enjoy e-commerce. I think anything direct to consumer can be fun. Like when there's products involved, that can be really fun to work on if you're designing, but it's not my area.
Different skill sets.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of overlap in the skills, but it's just not where I've ever worked. Like my background's in all service businesses. I worked in accounting, and then I did sales for an accounting firm, and then I was a manager, and then I did business consulting, and then I did that and business coaching. Then I started doing the web stuff and a bit of marketing. So I've always sold services, and I know services really well. Selling. I've never sat there and tried to sell products. Like it's not my area. I typically recommend other people. Like I have people I trust. So when someone comes to me for e-commerce, there's people that I recommend for it. Everything depends on the need. I wouldn't say that I have a niche, because I think niching's kind of or niche if anyone American's watching or listening. I don't have a niche or niche. If I did, it'd be like more service businesses, if anything. But that's not really niching. That's just one.
No, that's our niche as well.
Subset.
We are main focus on service businesses as well. So with your accounting background, because we have customers in accounting and maybe law firms, those people, we have discussed the strategy to build a website. So you need a personality and clear value proposition, messaging that connects now, and the design of the website. Now website is ready. Getting traffic is another big thing to the website. So for service businesses, what is your favorite ways, 1 to 3 ways which worked for you very good in the past to bring traffic to those service peoples?
Well, everything has worked in the past. So my first accounting gig where I was in charge of sales and marketing, we ran ads, Google ads, and that was very effective. You just got to have the right fit for Google ads. So if you're a premium offering, typically Google ads aren't the best. If you're kind of more of a mass market offering, Google ads are fantastic. If you have something that's kind of a need it now and you do emergency services like locksmiths or plumbers or, stuff like that, Google ads can be amazing. For me, I would not do Google ads today. Typically, service businesses should have something they're doing already. It's very rare that they're going out and building a site and having no marketing already done. That's kind of silly. They should be marketing already, and the site should be appropriate for that marketing. I think what happens a lot with, especially accountants, like as that example, they get their clients from networking. So they
referrals are a big
referrals and networking, right? So the site, if they're not planning on changing that, then they're going to keep doing that. Then the website should probably be more sales support. So make it so when someone refers you, the person being referred checks the site and feels a lot more comfortable and safe making that inquiry. Then when you try to tell someone, one of the biggest things that frustrate me is when someone says that they're premium, that they have high attention to detail, that they're good quality, and then they have a just terrible looking website with mistakes on it and typos or just cheap looking design. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. You're telling me that you're premium. But if you're not premium there, where else are you not premium? If you cut corners on your website, where else do you cut corners? Because you judge people based off what they show you.
Exactly.
So if I'm sitting there telling everyone about personality and then I'm writing content that is dry and boring, then it's like, well, you're not living what you're saying. That's, and if you're doing that, then where else are you cutting corners? Where else are you not living what you're saying? So I think it's really important for people who network to make sure that they have a website that matches the story that they're telling other people, because it's not that you'll fail if you're not. Like, this is, I think people need to really understand. I'm not saying you're going to fail if you don't do this. It's just, it makes the job harder. Like, if you can have your sales process easy or hard, I mean, you probably want it to be easy. Why make it harder for yourself? Why make it so you have an uphill battle from the first conversation? So that, typically service businesses will have some sort of marketing they're already doing. If they're looking to add something, SEO is tricky to recommend right now. I actually think it is worth it. And I would probably be going quite hard at it. And I have for other people. I don't do it myself because I don't have the time or energy to spend on it. But SEO can work really well. It's just everyone's saying, oh, it's dead because of AI. But you can get recommended a lot very easily by just doing all the proper SEO stuff and maybe a couple of steps extra. So that client I mentioned, the SaaS product, who, I did the rebrand and SEO and everything. The SEO, and it's not me doing it. Like, I have a team that does the SEO. They're pushing for the AI, showing up on AI.
Overviews.
Yeah.
Overviews,
And these guys are getting recommended a lot. And so they went from, when we first started working together, they were lucky. They were happy if they got 2 trial signups, 2 leads basically a month. And now they're getting 26 a week. And that was 3 months ago. I don't know what the current numbers are, but they were getting 26 a week from 2 a month.
From SEO work there.
From SEO. Yeah. So, combination of the website being, tight, the branding being right, and, the messaging being good, and, everything being cohesive. Exactly. They're getting a lot. And so we stepped it up with the SEO to start aiming for the AI overviews. And they're getting something I think last month, or the month before, whenever it was, 35 visits from the AI things, which is pretty decent because there's really decent intent, buying intent there. People are asking for something specific. It's less about them doing just broad research and them, typically when they're clicking through, they're
numbers are lower from AI, but I think the conversion is very high from AI traffic.
Yeah. So that's been a thing. I think SEO actually will surprise a lot of people who are saying SEO is dead, but I don't know for sure. It's just a thing that I suspect. Also, because so many people are saying SEO is dead, and I'm very contrarian. So when they say that, I'm like, no, it's not. I think social media content.
I'm publishing Nick Eubanks, who is a VP of SEM Rush today in the podcast. And
yeah, nice.
He's really excited for the days ahead about with SEO. Mm-hmm. So it is a lot of noise out there that SEO is dead, but SEO is old. SEO is probably dead. SEO is evolving, and many people are very optimistic about the days ahead.
I think anyone who's a true SEO will really enjoy it, because experimentation is becoming the big thing again. Everyone's like, well, if no one knows what works, experimentation is necessary. And good SEOs really enjoy that because they know that's part of the job. But experimentation also gets expensive. Yeah, it isn't guaranteed. So, but yeah, SEO, I think SEO is a big one. I think that social media content is, for service businesses, I think social media can be a big thing. If you can find a way to blend the right kinds of content with your personality and show your viewpoint. I'm thinking that the type of content that, the typical how to do this type of content, I think is going to be less effective in the next year. I think it's going to be a bit more on the showing your experience and expertise, and kind of more about you and getting your personality out there, versus just the boring, hey, here's 5 ways you can blah, 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 because people will look that up on AI stuff. If it's something that people can just look up and get, you sharing that is not helpful. You giving almost an editorial or giving an opinion piece about it without necessarily being preachy, I think that will kill. I think that's going to do really well. I think YouTube has potential, but it's challenging. It's very hard to get that right. That's where I'm probably going to be putting some time and energy into this coming year. So LinkedIn already works for me. In-person networking works for me. And I'm thinking probably combo of newsletter and YouTube will be my this coming year, the next thing that I add. I'm going heavier into video. I think video online can be tricky to get a lot of visibility with, but I think it goes way further with conversion. So people get to know you, they get your personality. I read this thing, and I don't know how true it is because it's a stat, and stats can be bullshit a lot of times. But it was something like 7 hours of footage before people feel that like level of connection. So that's a lot of footage, you know, a lot of like, not just footage, sorry, there's like, you know, I guess seeing you and hearing you and, you know, that engagement with your stuff. So doing video gets you there closer, gets you there faster. So, you know, people build that connection. They feel like they know you. I've had a lot of people tell me, like, after first time I did a video, it's like, oh, Nick, it's so great to see and hear you. I feel like I know you much better now. That was actually like 2 or 3 messages that came from like that, and a couple of comments as well, which was cool.
No, I agree. The video is the next best thing to the face-to-face meeting. So again, today's keyword of this discussion is the personality, which is, I think, going to save us not just in marketing, but the AI world as well. So AI
Yes.
is a tool, can do everything for you, but if it doesn't have your personality, I think it will be very difficult to get any meaningful results from AI. What's your opinion on this?
Well, I 100% agree. I think a lot of people are using it almost as a crutch. So, and this is kind of my, you know, really like my strong opinion when it comes to it. I think that people will go, oh, this is really hard. I'll use AI to make it easier. So what happens is it's almost like a crutch. You've got a broken leg and there's a crutch there. And if your leg feels sore, you can lean on the crutch. And so when you start leaning on it though, what happens is you're not working your leg as much. And the next time your leg gets a bit sore and then you lean on the crutch sooner. And the next time you lean on it even sooner. And then eventually you can't walk without the crutch. And then if someone takes the crutch away, you can't walk. And that's what using AI is like now. People are using it to basically think for them. And I've tried this before. I've tried to do content with AI. And what happens is I'll come up with this piece of content and then it's like, what do I do now? No, this isn't right. And instead of me sitting there trying to think of how to fix it, I'm like, let me just ask again, because it doesn't really cost you anything to ask it again. It was easy come. You just go, that's not good enough. Hit the button, do it again. Hit the button, do it again. Hit the button, do it again. And just keep doing that until you get something you think is okay. There's a lot of people out there saying that it's about the prompting is really important. You got to get your personality into it and all this stuff. And, you know, I think that they think they're getting their personality into it. I think that it's making their personality less.
Weaker,
It's getting, their personality is getting weaker. Their personality is changing into something like that, because when I've tried to do that and tried to make it more my personality, when I've looked at it and I'm reading it, and then when I leave it and come back to it, and then when I read it out loud, it looks fine to me. And then when I read it out loud, I realize, actually, no, that is terrible. That's not me. But when they're not doing that final step, they're like, yeah, that's great. Their personality is changing. And it isn't what they think it is. But they love it because it's making things easier. So they're like making everything more efficient. They're on this very efficient road to nothing, road to nowhere.
It's a very interesting topic, and I think we can do a separate podcast just on AI and personality as well. So I'm just conscious of the time, and I'm trying to get, you know, most out of you of our time together.
No
so
problems.
as you mentioned, the different marketing channels, once you have the site right, you have to market to bring in traffic, and all the channels you mentioned, again, your personality part will really help with that as well, particularly with social media. So if you're good at video, maybe YouTube may work really well for you, or the reels will work very good. But if you're better at writing content, maybe LinkedIn and other blog posts or other stuff work.
One thing to note, if you have a trade, so if you do physical work, short form content kills. Like, show people your day-to-day stuff, because me working on a computer every day, I don't do any of that. So, you know, I've seen like, I have a friend who is a pest control person. And he started doing video content while he's like in a roof spraying, and he's like, oh, look at these bugs and all this stuff, and showing everyone all the dirty, yucky stuff. And his business exploded. It grew. He had to hire more people. He started getting contracts with like national companies to handle like big areas, and he had to hire more people to handle it. His business exploded because he was showing the stuff that people don't normally see. And electricians, plumbers, like anything where you're doing something physical, get that phone out, start filming some content and put it onto like TikTok or whatever, and just try to get your personality into it a bit. Like, you know, be funny or whatever your personality happens to be. That works really well. It's
fantastic advice.
Yeah.
A very, very, useful and brilliant advice. I know most people only need a phone to do that. They don't need a fancy tools to start with. So this is very, very helpful. Last piece of, before we get to the money part, which is, exciting part for everybody. Last puzzle here is the conversion. So you got the site right, you got the personality, you got traffic coming to the site. Now the last part before the sale happens is conversion. What is your biggest advice on conversion for service-oriented businesses? What really worked well for you?
Okay, so friction is always a problem. Anytime, like if you want someone to change something, change behavior, you want them to take action, there's a couple of things. There's this formula for change. I used to teach this in business coaching. So the formula for change is there needs to be a dissatisfaction with the current situation. There needs to be a desirable outcome, something that they want. There needs to be an easy first step. And all of that together has to overcome their resistance to change. So if their situation now, they're happy with their current situation, it's going to be harder to make them take action. So when someone's fine, it's like as much as they want something, it's like there's no urgency. There's no need to change it because they're happy. They're making a lot of money or they're, whatever, they're comfortable. If they're uncomfortable, but they don't have anything they really want, they're just going to be unhappy. What are they going to change for? They've got nothing they want. It's like just going to be more of the same. Or if you have all that and they're like unhappy and they have something they want, but then to change it is hard, then they're just going to be frustrated and angry because they can't, they're unhappy. They have something they want, but they can't change anything about it. So you need to make sure that your first step is easy. Like, I see people doing like contact forms that have so many fields. And it's like adding all these fields in, make it hard. Or they make that first step sound like it's a big deal. It's like, let's basically like almost like signing up. It's like, no, make it low risk for them. Make it something and a step.
This is very good, very important point. So can you please explain it with an example? Like, let's say accountancy website, their ideal goal is to, sell the customer. So don't expect to sign up a new customer because before that they need to speak with you, understand your personality. There's it's a high ticket sale and there is so much needs to be going before the sale. So instead of asking for a sale, what can you do? What's the first step they should take on a website?
So depending on the kind of accountant you are, so if you are more of let's say the masses, you're targeting the masses and you're trying to get high volume clients, and then anytime you're doing high volume, typically get a free quote works because that's what people want. You're someone who's competing at the price level. Usually people are looking for price. Your price very competitive on price. So get a free quote and just name, phone number, email address, whatever you need, the basics, maybe a message. And very easy for them to do it. They put an inquiry in, you speak to them, go through the process, ask them questions, give them a price, close a deal. That's what I used to do when I worked in the accounting firm. If you're kind of structuring yourself as a bit of a higher level solution, and if you're going to be maybe a bit more costly, you don't want to be the price competitive option. Then it's think about what is the first step for someone to take action. What do they need? What is their resistance? What is it that they, why are they, what are they worried about? Someone's going to an accounting firm. It's like, are these guys going to be better? Is this process going to be horrible for me to do? Am I going to have an awkward conversation with my existing accountant? And am I going to have to chase down all this paperwork? Like figure out what these pain points are and go, okay, cool. What's the first thing that I can do to make this easier? Maybe the first action is you make it sound quite easy, no obligation, conversation-based situation. And I'll give you advice about where you're at. You tell me where you're at. I'll give you some advice, like something along those lines. Like maybe that's the first step. It depends on what your business is like. And also it depends on how many leads you're getting. If you have a lot of people calling, and you're getting people wasting your time, you're going to make that first step. You're going to add more friction because you don't want the people who are time wasters calling you. If you're getting no leads, then you want to make it very easy because you need to get some. So it's hard because it's different for everyone based on the situation. But, I'm a fan of making it easy until you need to make it harder because you can't handle all the leads.
Okay. So making it easier is one thing to improve conversion. Any other thing worked for you to improve conversions on the website?
On a practical standpoint, making it so people don't have to go to another page. I'm doing that now on my side, I think. But I've used to typically do I'll make it so when you click the button to make an inquiry, it will pop up with the inquiry form. Making it really easy, having it so it's on every page. If you are a lower cost competitive option, have a contact form first thing on your site, like have it in your, like pretty much in your hero banner, make it there like big. So they, request a free quote and it's there. Cause that's the big thing people care about. Everything else supports that, but make it up like big and right there. And then again, like easy to get to from the bottom of the page as well. And like multiple places throughout, but it's a tactical thing based off your strategy of, what your brand is and what your business is and what your lead gen strategy is. So if you are, like I said, if you're low cost, if you're cost competitive, you make it really easy for them to get a free quote. If you're going to be a higher, like, white glove type service, if you're a premium thing, concierge type service, then you make it sound like it's a more of a pleasant thing for them. And, you make it sound more nurturing and more friendly and whatever. And then there's all the steps in between that you could pick. Mine is, I think at the moment, it's like, let's have a chat about your business strategy, something along those lines. Like, let's talk. I should probably look at it. I'm actually due to look at it. So it's tomorrow's, I've got a 2.5 hours scheduled copy session of looking over my own copy and revising. So
it's always difficult to do your own operation. So I think it sounds complicated to increase conversion, but I think at the end, if you keep it simple call to action normally works best on your website. So that's what you do it. People who are listening, and we discuss strategy, we discuss design and development, promotion and conversion. That's a lot of heavy stuff to, make your website, convert your website into your number one business growth tool. So how can we make for those people easier? What is the first easy step they can do this week to achieve this goal? The people, for them, the websites is not working.
Okay, so the easiest one is probably to look at your site, just look at it and go, okay, cool. If I was a client, if I was a potential client, if I was looking for this service and I'm not me, I am the person I'm trying to work with, is this a website that speaks to me? Is this a website that will make me feel something? Is this a website that will talk to my problem? Is this a website that looks different and stands out against everyone else? Maybe not visually, but in terms of what they're saying. Does it say, like, if your website says, like, we care about quality and we care about results, driving real results, that stuff is the same shit that everyone says. Like, you sound like everyone else. They ignore it. Consumer behavior is continually changing. So it's like, and you might have written that 5 years ago and it might have been great then. But now it's like, okay, am I saying the same stuff as everyone else? Like, me looking at this, if I was a potential customer or potential client, is this something that would make me want to speak to them? Is there anything here that talks about an outcome I want? Is there anything here that talks to a frustration that I have? Is there anything here that makes me go, this is the kind of person I want to talk to, I want to hang out with? Is it someone that I can trust with my stuff? So you look at your site with almost like fresh eyes, as if you are a customer, if you're a client, and go, okay, is this going to work? Would this work on me if I was a client? And if you see stuff that makes you go, no, not really, then that's something to think about and something to start thinking, okay, how do I make it different? What is it that isn't working for me? And what would I need to be there for it to work for me? Because realistically, that's how I approach things when I work. It's like, what would work? Would this work? No.
This is a brilliant advice. In my experience, it's not important just for website. It's really important when you show your personality, you connect with the right type of people, and having a right type of clients is very important for a long term, your happiness, your business success. So otherwise you will maybe find clients who are after just a transactional value. They pay something, they want to get out of something from you, which is normally is a very difficult customers to deal with, and your life is always in a mess. So we learned this as well. So I think that's why we say we work with purpose-driven businesses. We all want to make money, but when someone have some purpose, we really connect with those people, and our team's happiness go increase by doing that. So Nick, this is a brilliant stuff, and I think we touched on really important stuff on making websites your number one business growth tool. I'm sure this conversation will really help. And if I would take only one thing out of this conversation, this personality part, I think that is very important going forward. So thank you so much for sharing amazing advice. So brilliant advice, Nick. So thank you so much. And where people can connect with you, and if they need to work with you, how can they do that?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, like every day, a lot, like too much. LinkedIn is great. It's the only social media platform that I use at the moment. And if not on LinkedIn, if you wanted to work with me, then my agency website, so it's creativeclick.com.au. .au because I'm Australian company, but I am global. Like I have a lot of clients who are overseas. LinkedIn or the agency website.
Excellent. We will put all these links into the show notes as well. So once again, Nick, thank you so much for your generous advice.
No problem. Glad to help.
But that's it for this episode of the Website Growth Show. If you find it helpful, please consider subscribing. Until next time, keep growing.